I would do my best to break down my personal thoughts on Levi's guard and just like guard principles in general and things that who am I to say what Kade can and can't do, but things that I think as a passer I would have done. So I know just really good preface here is that the De La Hiva system that Kade and Lachlan do, sorry, Levi and Lachlan do, is very flank but not like mobility heavy. And I know you can literally watch this in Lachlan's De La Hiva instructional. That's probably on BJJ Fanatics. And he probably has a more modern version on his submeta. Right. So he just makes a connection off seated guard with the inside hand on the popliteal. That's like the piano strings on the inner knee. And then the other hand goes for hook on the heel. But what he tries to do is he tries to install his elbow as a wedge to prevent this guy's foot from facing the guard player. Right. So for all flanking, whether it's Lachlan style or Mikey style, the main goal is to lock this foot in place so that the toe points away from your spine. And the reason why you want to do that is because, and you can test this out, if you lock someone's foot in that position and they're forced to face you, like they turn to the right, but their toes aren't allowed to face their right, you'll find that their balance is really compromised. And you can honestly literally just like tilt to your left and you should be able to tip them over. It doesn't matter what their weight is. It's literally because of the structure of the person on top, unable to be unable to support their weight when you tip them over this way, right? He needs his right foot to base out to the right if you move him. But if his foot is locked in this position and Kade turns to face Levi, his spine is out of alignment. So spine structure and I think weight distribution and frames are probably going to be the main focus of the first two rounds I think we'll record. But I know this is what Lachlan says in his instructional, to constantly have his elbow locking this heel in place, which effectively locks the foot, and then to constantly flank. And then what he tries to do is he uses his right foot to stomp on the ground and his left foot to kick this hip, and that's what actually takes the guy over. I don't know if Levi actually learned this specifically from Lachlan or if he's been playing a lot of, I'm sure he's been playing a lot of guard before, he was boys with Lachlan. So it might just be convergent evolution of specific techniques. But what I do also know is Mikey doesn't actually play like this. Instead, he does a thing called tilt and tuck, where he puts this foot, so like like the bally bone on the outside of your ankle, he actually puts it right here in between his, like basically his butthole, right? But that effectively does the exact same thing. It locks the foot in place. And so for Mikey style De La Hiva, he's a little bit more shifted over, and they actually post up on this elbow. You'll see here when Kade starts to circle fast, it's actually hard to keep up with that if you're flat backed. So you'll often see people who are doing flanking styles of De La Hiva, they have to post on their elbow, because I think posting on your elbow and using your elbow to run against the mat is actually a really effective way to get mobility. Right, so he tries to flank, and then you see he has to post on his elbow in order to chase. Cade's is trying to strip the hook, and I think he does get this baby bowl, and he kind of just, does Kade shit to get out. Let's skip ahead. Right, so one thing I don't like, it sounds crazy to say this about pros. One thing I don't like about this style of guard, which honestly 99% of people play, right, is that he's so ball. Like, he's so balled here. And it's so easy to literally just do that and spin him, right? And I feel like against a good guy, obviously, I personally think Levi won this match. But I feel like against a good person who's just going to spin you like this and just blast through, like, they just get the north south so easy. So I think it's better to have a flat back. You have more connection to the mat, and it's harder. It's harder to spin you, but like you're just a top, right? All your weight is on your sacrum, basically. That's not to say that there aren't good guard, like most good guard players are also playing like a balled position for mobility, but I think it's good for the passer. And we could talk about how to actually like recenter people who are flanking when you flat back later on. Right, so exact same thing. Levi is chasing the corner. He's going elbow deep. Kade is just trying to strip out. Sure. Let's skip ahead a little bit. He plays on this side now with like trying to force some knee torque position. And then this is really good because I think Kade shuts off his left side. And so Levi, I think, will swing to the other side, which is the correct time that you, yes, exactly, right? Which is the right time to ball because you want mobility at this point. So he hooks the far leg and he swings over, and it's almost like an underhook De La Hiva situation. Kade obviously gets out and then hits this slick triangle. Levi gets out. But I think that's the main correlation, right? Is that when someone is really adamant about shutting off one side, usually the other side is open. So you're just constantly toggling between the two. And so, like, he's able to hook this in and get his weight underneath, which is really good. Kade is just, Kade is Kade. And here with this style of passing, it's not really reflected in this video, but Kade is like all his weight's here, right? All his weight is focused on driving down to try to pin Levi's hips. And he's like kind of floating. I know Kade and Ty both do a really good job of kind of floating, but also feeling heavy. But they're just like it's because they're like surfer stoners, dude. Like they're really good at riding waves, and so I feel like they're really good at just giving all their weight to the guard player and just making them carry the weight and then kind of riding that out. I don't think that's the best method for the average layman. I think giving weight to a really good guard player is just like you're giving them Kazushi. So, I think my main goal as a passer is to try to feel like the absolute worst ass whooping I've ever had when I played guard against someone who was really good at passing. It felt like I was punching in the air. Like it didn't feel like they were sitting on me. It just felt like they were negating all my frames, and it was like getting passed by a ghost. Like it felt weightless, but it felt like I couldn't do anything. Like my body was locked, and I was like, "Oh, holy shit!" And this is like not from a heavy guy, so I was like, "This is technique. Like this is something I can do." Now, is it wrong to give someone your weight? Probably not. A lot of people do it, but I that's not the style that I emulate, right? Um, I just feel like against really good guard players, when I give my weight, they just like fucking overhead balloon throw me, and it's a disaster. Kind of skip ahead here. All right, he goes to our underhook de la Hiva. This is a really good position. K doing a great job stuffing that. Right, he knows that if Levi can get this foot free and on his hip or underneath, he basically enters waiter, right? And so he does his back step, and then this is the absolute sick highlight where Levi has this entry into saddle. Doesn't get anything from it. One thing I do like is he uses this leg to frame Kade. Whenever you're in double guard pull, if you can get a foot to frame the hip, you can basically 99% of the time prevent them from standing up. Now, in this case, Kade does stand up, so that's his own thing. He gets up, and then Kade's just kind of trying to blast through. I don't think he's actually deleting any of the frames that Levi's throwing at him. Or he's able to delete 3, but not the last one. And then Levi's able to retain guard because he has more frames than Kade is able to delete. Choose K guard, and then I think they kind of just scramble out. Yeah, like here, right? This is really good. Right? Kade has the bottom leg pinned. Levi's left hip is pinned. He has the top hand pinned. Right? That's 2 frames deleted. And then here, it's kind of awkward to smash forward. I would consider Levi's right leg decommissioned, but he still has his right arm, right? And that's what's really hard to deal with. And so, like, you'll see what Kade tries to do is I think he tries to shove this knee pass, but when he does that, Kade's right arm comes back into play. And then Kade will try to move Levi's leg, and then Levi's arm is going to come in as a frame. And when Kade tries to address the arm, the leg comes back in, right? So he tries to shove this back. The arm is there. He can't. And then he tries to row drag. He can't. The leg is now back, right? Because he's committing both his arms to Levi's right arm, right? So this is the entire play of guard retention, right? It's as a supine player, I think you have more frames. Theoretically, you have more frames than the top person has, right? Because they're restricted to having 2 legs down, maybe they have a knee slice, maybe they're stomping, but I don't think they can use both their legs to delete two individual frames, right? Yes, Kade has his leg on knee slice, right? So that's 1-to-1 battle that's being won. Maybe he has this hand pinning Levi's left hand. That's okay, two frames down. But he only has his left hand now to fight against Levi's right hand and his right knee. And theoretically, as a guard player, you should just win that. Now, ideal world, you have at least 3 frames, but you should still have more than one because there's no way that Kade can use this foot, right? Like this foot is out of the equation. So like Kade is fighting with 3 limbs against Levi's 4. The round just ends, but yeah, that's a really good concept, I think, of just like when you're trying to retain guard, install frames.